Shepherd Neame, Whitstable Bay, Blonde Lager.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Today is a local beer, and this local beer is the Whitstable Bay Blonde Lager, which has come from Shepherd Neame. Even though it doesn't say Shepherd Neame on the label, you've got the Faversham Brewery, Steam Brewery. Well, if you looked at my video about the trip I took down there, filmed the outside, this was during COVID, first lockdown, you'll see that the Faversham Brewery is directly opposite the Shepherd Neame Brewery. It's one and the same. And this is a range of beers that they do, the Whitstable Bay range. A little bit hit and miss, to be honest, if the truth be told. The Ruby Ale isn't bad. They do a Pale Ale, which is just fucking run-of-the-mill, average. They do the Ruby Ale, which in my opinion is probably the best one out of the Whitstable Bay range. But it's based on an area, or the name is based on an area that is in Kent, Whitstable Bay. If you've ever been there, it's quite nice. I've been there a couple of times. Went there on a bike once, got moaned at by an old boy who said my bike was too loud. And it's interesting what they write about it on the back. So Whitstable combines the seaside charm and a modern bohemian vibe, and this is reflectable in the Whitstable Bay collection. Whitstable Bay Blonde Lager offers a enhanced drinking experience. Oh, do me a fucking favour, will ya? Through a distinctive floral aroma paired with refreshingly zesty notes. That is not a fucking lager, in my opinion. Why is this? Well, it depends what the citrus is. If it's lemon citrus, I'll let you away with that. I'm not going to lie to you, I've actually had this. There's a couple of pubs around the area that are Shepherd Neame, and they have this on tap. And it isn't bad. It's not the worst beer I've tasted on tap, but it ain't the greatest. And I got it from around the corner, and it was, I'm sure they do pint bottles of this, but this is a 330ml bottle. But from what I remember on draft, I remember the last time I had it, we'd just come out of lockdown, and it was in a pub in, where was that? In Maidstone, near the hospital. There's a Shepherd Neame pub there, and there's a band playing. It was a really warm day, and I drank several pints of this. I just remember it being okay, and it was a choice between this and Hurlemans. And Hurlemans is another beer that's brewed under licence by Shepherd Neame. They also do Samuel Adams as well, which is based on an American style beer from Boston, I think. That ain't great at all. I wasn't impressed. I think I've reviewed that on the channel. Not the greatest, but this is the Whitstable Bay stuff. So let's get it open and let's see what's going on. Before we do, I'll give you a quick rundown. Even though it doesn't say Shepherd Neame, this is a Shepherd Neame beer, oldest brewer in Britain, or oldest registered brewer in Britain. It's a 330ml bottle. It is 4.5%. ABV, and that's about it really. There's no brew sheet on the website. Don't know what hops they've put in here, couldn't tell you. Let's just get it open, see what's going on. Let's get this open. Now, a blonde lager. Isn't most lagers blonde? No. Well, that glass is fucking filthy. I do apologise for that. But I found this glass the other day. I thought I'd lost it. I bought this from Waitrose when I lived in Buckhurst Hill. And I bought it for drinking Belgian Wit beer. But it does come in handy for 330ml bottles because that's what it holds. half a pint, or just over half a pint. Does look like a normal lager, what we're getting on the nose. Yeah. Lemon zest. And a little touch, I think I don't know whether it's syrup or crystal malt that they've put in here. I'd be surprised if it's crystal malt. But there's like a sweetness that runs through it. But lots of lemon zest. So if that's what they're talking about when they say zesty flavours, then that can only be a good thing. As I say, I've had it on draft, but not out of a bottle. I'm just checking to see. There's no haze on that. That is filtered. So there's no residue on that. Light carbonation. Head non-existent. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. It's just okay. There's elements in this that remind me of it being a golden ale. And if you ever wanted a hybrid between golden ale, which is a top fermented beer, and lager, which is obviously a bottom fermented beer, that just relates to the yeast that's used. So top fermented, it would be yeast that is more active at a higher boil temperature. Bottom fermented is yeast, or they use yeast in the brewing process that is efficient at colder temperatures, and it produces different flavours. Obviously yeast varies from strain to strain, and it gives the beer a unique flavour. On this one though, there's lots of elements that remind me of a golden ale, and not a fantastic golden ale, it has to be said. And there's that, you get it quite a lot in Shepherd Neame beers. I found it with the Whitstable Bay Pale Ale, which I quite liked actually, that was nice. But they use crystal malt in there, but they also use, I don't know whether it's some kind of syrup or yeast flavouring or what, but I do find it in all of them Whitstable Bay range of beers. I think it might be some kind of additive that they've put in there. And it's like a sweet honey, cheap honey type flavour that you do find in the Whitstable Bay Golden Ale. You find it in the Pale Ale as well, and you're finding it in this too. And so it appears there's a theme running through it, and it's the lighter colour beers have this added to it. Why, I don't know, but it's sort of unique to Shepherd Neame. I have tasted elements of it in other golden ales, and I have to say English golden ale really isn't one of my favourite styles of beers. I'm not really a fan. It has to be done properly. The ones that do stand out for me golden ale wise, well, the one that personally is my go-to if I have to drink a golden ale, that's the Fuller's Organic Honeydew, which is honey infused as well. But you can tell that the honey is quite nice. It's not cheap and nasty. I tasted some Polish beer with honey in it, and it was just disgusting. I think they confused honey with syrup, glucose syrup, but it wasn't nice at all. This, I wouldn't immediately say it was a lager. In a blindfold test, I'd say that this is more like a golden ale. And it's cold, it's just come straight out of the fridge. Now, don't get me wrong, on a warm day, this is very pleasant. And I've done a session on this a while back on draft, and it wasn't too bad, I have to say. It was quite refreshing, quite cold on a lovely summer's day. Would it be my go-to beer? No, not really. I certainly wouldn't buy this again from a bottle. There's so many better lagers out here. But it comes back to my point about the English or the British, they just don't do good lagers. There really isn't a homegrown good lager. The only one that springs to mind is the Sam Smith's, the organic lager. That is really nice. And the C84 Yorkshire lager. That's quite nice as well. Everything else, not impressed. All these pseudo pilsners and Bavarian style Helleses and all that, they just don't come close. I don't know whether it's something to do with the water. You'd think obviously down in the south of England the water's a lot harder, but up north you do get, and certainly in Scotland, you get very soft water, which is what you tend to find in Germany. So there's no real excuse. I think it's just the know-how and the ingredients. And I always say the hops and the malt, the geology of that does have an effect on the beer, in my opinion. So this as a lager, again, it's just going to go down as a very, very average English brewed lager. Pleasant enough, no nasties in it, but just really doesn't stand out for me as being an amazing beer. So what's the verdict on Whitstable Bay Blonde Lager? Well, it's your typical English lager. It doesn't really compare to the German stuff, and it doesn't really have that Moorishness that I find I get from German lagers and Czech lagers as well. I don't know what it is. Lager is like the Achilles heel of English brewers, especially some of the craft brewers who try to say that they're trying to emulate some of the Bavarian stuff or the German stuff even, and it just doesn't work like that. And this, again, I think it just falls under that category. Don't get me wrong, it's got its place, because if this is on tap in a local pub, it ain't the worst beer you can drink all afternoon. There's a little bit of flavour to it, there's a little bit of that zesty lemon flavour to it, but it's not one that would be my first choice. If it was a choice between this and, for example, what do they sell in, well, you get your usual crap that you get in certain pubs like Foster's and that kind of Amstel, that kind of thing, Stella even. I'd rather drink this than that, because I know I'd be supporting an English brewer and a local brewer as well. But I don't know, I just think they could have done better than this, but it would appear that they haven't. It reminds me of a golden ale, and golden ales ain't my favourite, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And would I recommend it? If you're in a Shepherd Neame pub and this is on tap and there is nothing else that you fancy, if they haven't got Bishop's Finger on draft, well, they should have. If they're worth their salt. And you know, if you do want a lager, you know, obviously ale's different. So personally, I would be going for the Bishop's Fingers, the Master Brews, the Spitfires. And they do a Spitfire lager as well. So I do question why Shepherd Neame are doing so many different lagers. They're doing Hurlemans, they're doing Spitfire, they're doing this stuff. And I just think, well, is there any real need to do so many different lagers? The Spitfire lager isn't much cop either. It's very average. Drinkable, yes, I know I have drunk it on occasion, but again, not one to go out my way for. So yeah, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. Would I recommend it if there's nothing else in the pub? Seriously, don't buy it in a bottle. Not really worth it, to be honest. You're not missing much. It's better on draft, as is normally the case. So yeah, 6 out of 10, not massively recommended. So there you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.